So today I want to talk about the injuries to OU and what this might mean for Oklahoma in its final two games and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today, I want to talk about the injuries to Oklahoma's football team and how they're mounting. In particular, what this means for guys like Grant Calcaterra and Caleb Kelly. And we're going to get into it. But first, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my newsletter. There's a link in the description below. It is growing fast, and I am so fortunate about that because I really enjoy using the medium to write at length my thoughts about what's going on in college football, sports in general, and it gives me an opportunity to connect with folks that don't necessarily comment on Twitter or comment in these comments below, for which it's all fast and loose, and it's really mostly just throwing stuff at the wall. Sometimes I get some really insightful stuff, and I get the odd joke from guys like Doc Winston O'Boogie, who is awesome. But please take that opportunity to subscribe to the newsletter. If you like what I have to write, just keep reading it and tell me about it every now and again. If you don't, I understand. And if you do it between now and December 7th, you get you get an opportunity to win this, right? It's a Hurt Slam. So when we talk about Oklahoma, one of the things that I wanted to talk about at length during this week was how Oklahoma managed to get a W in Waco against an undefeated Baylor team without CeeDee Lamb. Put aside for a second the 25-point deficit that they had to overcome to beat 9-0 Baylor, and then put aside that this was the 9-0 Baylor team that the playoff selection committee ranked at number 13, the lowest ranked undefeated team in the entire country, and really just got no respect from anybody, most for their non-conference schedule, even as they had beaten Kansas State teams and a Oklahoma State team that was ranked heading into, the game against Oklahoma, ranked by the playoff committee, not at the time that they played them. I say all that to say, CeeDee Lamb kind of put a bow on this when he was out for an undisclosed medical reason, and that's kind of Lincoln Riley's thing. He doesn't want to tell anybody at all what is going on with his players, even so much as to say with guys that might have blown ACLs, it's a lower leg injury. Whatever, man. I mean, I don't understand the gamesmanship. I also don't understand CeeDee Lamb lying to Maria Taylor, telling her that he's going to play even as he come out and then going through warmups with the subterfuge and then not playing, and on the one hand, I kind of get holding your cards close to your vest, and that's a move that Lincoln Riley picked up from Bob Stoops, and I understand it. On the other hand, I'm going, why so paranoid? The only guy that's probably more paranoid about players and player information and who can see what and when is perhaps Gus Malzahn, who's just weird to begin with. But Riley takes it to another level. We don't know why Grant Calcaterra has missed so many games. We don't know for certain what's going on with a lot of these players, as he just won't say the words anterior cruciate ligament tear. He won't say the words meniscus tear. He won't say the words even high ankle sprain. He won't even say the word concussion. It's like he's removed them entirely from his vocabulary. Even in talking about Jalen Hurts and talking about Alabama, he'll say the other team. Dude, I get it. You're the head coach at the University of Oklahoma. I get that you don't really want to give out any sort of props to anybody else that you don't think is politically correct, especially during the season, because Riley kind of lets himself go during the offseason where he'll start to talk at length about stuff, and he'll start to stump for his guys to get drafted and tell you all about what they've been doing at Oklahoma after the season's over. During the season, he doesn't even want to say that the committee should look at Oklahoma differently because they beat an undefeated Baylor team without CeeDee Lamb. He just wants to say everybody's dealing with injuries, everybody's pushing through right now. Yeah, okay, not everybody has a Biletnikoff Award semifinalist at wideout and the guy that's probably going to end up winning the award. Not everybody has a guy who was responsible for 35% of your receiving yardage production and 54% of Jalen Hurts' touchdown passes, a guy that's probably going to get an invite to New York for the Heisman ceremony. So I say all that to say, I don't know what's holding Caleb Kelly back except that they don't think he's ready to play. And I think in your head most of the time, you're going, nah, Caleb Kelly can help us out. And then they'll put him out there and you'll be like, oh, this guy actually still sucks. Or he might not be very good to begin with. Because the last thing you want to do is put a guy out there who ain't ready to go and either one, get him hurt, or two, have him play so poorly. Now, Riley said a couple weeks ago he's been cleared, but there's a difference between being cleared and being ready to play football. And he's been out there in pads, and I'm sure that if something happens to, say, Kenneth Murray or Deshaun White, he's got to be a guy that Brian Odom's going to look like and be like, all right, buddy, it's time to get out of the film room and stop drawing up these plays on Soonersports.com and come over here and play a little football again. Because looking at these safeties and De'Aaron Turner and Pat Fields, you're looking around, you're going, is Jeremiah Cradell going to play? Because he traveled, right? Jaden Davis is the only true freshman corner that they trust to throw out there, and he hasn't looked great in the last 2 games. Basically, since Kansas State, he hasn't looked great. And Woody Washington ain't been playing. And Jamal Morris ain't been playing. And Marcus Hicks, who was dealing with a hamstring thing earlier in the year after putting on a lot of weight, ain't been playing. Marcus Stripling, we haven't seen a whole hell of a lot of him. But, and David Ugwebu is kind of taking a back seat to Nick Bonito. And goodness knows that Nick Bonito has earned every opportunity to be out there, especially with the pick to seal the game against Baylor. But when talking about guys like Grant Calcaterra, you also have to look at Lee Morris, who had the team lead for receptions with 7 on big plays, and a guy that plays on all 3 special teams, a guy that they really trust to do a lot of different things and who is counted on in a different way when it comes to OU football, in that the dudes on the team refer to Lee Morris as Lee Morris. Like, they'll say, hey, Lee Morris could have done that, and say, yeah, coach, but that's Lee Morris. As if to say that's a big, strong dude out there who's just making man plays. Austin Stogner showing up, making man plays. And this is the kind of depth that you need at every position. Because Grant Calcaterra was supposed to be toward an All-American season this year. He's supposed to be that dude. I thought Lee Morris was the better wideout, tight end type since jump, basically since he took the job over for me last year and had this really cool kinship with Kyler Murray where it seemed like every pass he caught was a touchdown pass. And now you're looking at Austin Stogner, and he had 2 catches against his dad's alma mater that were touchdowns, right? So you're seeing that kind of depth come through, and you're seeing depth being rebuilt at the fullback position with both Braden Willis and Jeremiah Hall coming into their own. And you get guys like Mikey Henderson coming in to help you out with that. But when we talk about them, we don't talk about losing Trey Norwood, who could play 3 different positions for Oklahoma. We don't talk about how difficult it has been to get Chance Sylvie just ready to go since the Achilles injury, and he hadn't looked great since he's been out there. We don't really talk about losing John Michael Terry, except to say Nick Bonito needed to come in there and play a really good football. And this is a guy that wasn't playing really good football until preseason of this year. But John Michael Terry was still the guy that they trusted not to bust plays. And that seems to be the biggest thing about Grinch's defense is, are you busting a play or are you where you're supposed to be? Like when he's chewing guys out on the sideline, it's usually for not making a tackle or just being out of position. Because it seems like that's what they're still having a difficult time doing, especially with guys like Buki, who I talked with at length with my buddy Brett about. We both really love Buki, but also the way that he's able to take the coaching in a way that I just flat out would not be able to do that. You're going to have to talk to me differently. You start yelling at me, I'm going to yell back. I'm that cat. You're not going to just be able to dress me down, dog. That's not how I'm going to get down. You don't give me respect that way. I don't give you respect that way. We're going to talk about this like 2 adults. However, that all aside, I do think that looking around and going, you lost CD, you lost Grant Calcaterra, you lost Trey Sermon. Those are 3 huge contributors to this offense in any other year. And then again, on the defensive back side, with the loss of Parnell Motley, with Jaquaylin Crawford going into the transfer portal, with Miguel Edwards going into the transfer portal, with Starlin Baldwin going into the transfer portal. Those are 3 dudes that played defensive back or did play defensive back at Oklahoma who are no longer playing football at Oklahoma. Say nothing to losing Jonathan Perkins to the portal earlier in the year. These are all things that I think we need to keep in mind as we continue to watch Oklahoma play against Texas Christian, Oklahoma State, hopefully in a Big 12 championship game, but also things that the committee needs to take in mind when they give Alabama the benefit of the doubt for having to play so many true freshmen because they lost Dylan Moses, right? And they've lost Miller Forstall for probably the rest of the year, and they lost Tua Tagovailoa for the rest of the year. Give Oklahoma that same weight because Oklahoma has done the same amount of work and gotten more quality wins against ranked opponents than anybody not named Penn State. All right, that is it for me. Doses.